Upon receiving a report, I pulled back the bus, and the parents of the examinees began to panic on the eve of the college entrance exam. The 30 free shuttle buses I had arranged were reported by parents. Internet celebrity Jiang Tong held up her phone, and live streamed outside the Education Bureau. These vehicles are all decommissioned, and the medication at the rescue station has expired. She's using her child's college entrance exam as a publicity stunt just to advertise her own company. I've already arranged for over a dozen ride-hailing cars to take the students to the exam hall first thing tomorrow morning. Several other parents chimed in demanding it be stopped immediately. I didn't argue. Upon receiving the suspension notice, I instructed the drivers to shut off the engines, withdrew all vehicles, and dismantled the 5 rescue stations overnight. Jiang Tong laughed in the live stream. See, caught red-handed, and off he runs. The next morning, not a single ride-hailing car arrived despite her promise to arrange one. Candidates from remote towns and villages, luggage in tow, lined the roadside. A parent called me crying and asked, "Boss Shun, when will the bus arrive?" I stared at the suspension notice on my desk. "It won't be long now. Didn't you ask us to stop?" At 9 o'clock on the evening of June 6th, the parking lot was still brightly lit. The driver inspected the tires, brakes, and safety hammer on each vehicle. Staff affixed signs displaying the school name, route, and meeting time to the front of the vehicle windows. 30 vehicles divided into 12 routes. The longest route starts from Shermang Township at 4:30 a.m., picking up exam candidates from 17 villages along the way. This marks the 6th year I've organized free exam transportation. Our county is located in a mountainous region, with villages and towns scattered far apart. For some students to reach the exam site in the county town, they first need to ride a motorcycle to the township, then transfer twice on local buses. During the National College entrance exam period, regular bus seats are insufficient, so parents have no choice but to hire private transport, which costs at least 300 yuan for a round trip. 6 years ago, I took over the passenger transport company my father left behind, and participated in the exam transport service for the first time. That day, in the pouring rain, a candidate arrived by pedicab, soaked to the skin, and trembling all over. Before entering the exam hall, my father stared for a long time, then said only, "Our car is just sitting around anyway. Let's plan ahead for next year later." After my father passed away from illness, I carried on with the work. Routes must be reported in advance. The list of examinees is verified by the school, and parents must individually sign travel authorization forms. We have also set up service stations outside the 5 test centers. Each station is equipped with drinking water, stationery, rain gear, ice packs, and basic first aid supplies. Candidates who forget their admission ticket and ID card can have them retrieved, with assistance from registered emergency vehicles. Over the past 6 years, we have helped over 4,000 candidates. We never accepted a single penny. This year saw the highest number of applicants. Our company's finance department advised me, "Mr. Shun, the fuel costs, driver allowances, insurance, and supplies add up to nearly 200,000 yuan. Business isn't great for the company right now, so maybe we could just charge a nominal fee." I shook my head. The college entrance exam is just in a couple of days. Finish this first, then worry about the rest. At 9:30 p.m., internet celebrity Jiang Tong arrived at the parking lot. She was followed by a photographer and 2 staff members carrying sample cases. "Mr. Shun, it's about the cooperation we discussed earlier. We'll handle the live stream for the entire event and have each vehicle display the brand banner. We'll film a segment of the examinees boarding with the energy drink in hand. It's sure to generate great traffic." She handed over the contract. "The sponsorship fee is 250,000. It's more than enough to cover all the exam escort costs. But I didn't take it. Candidate lists and itineraries cannot be used for commercial live streams. The area around the exam center isn't a good place for product promotion either." Jiang Tong's smile faded. "They're all adults. What's the big deal about filming a video? Besides, I have the audience. Without my promotion, who would even know about all the work you've done?" I said, "It's fine if no one knows as long as the car gets the kids there on time." She stared at me for a few seconds, then put the contract away. Mr. Shun, don't make yourself out to be so noble. After doing it for free all these years, isn't it just about building a persona? I'll have the staff see you out." Before she left, the camera panned across a corner of the parking lot. 2 old vehicles, out of service and awaiting dismantling, are parked there. On the supply table next to it sat a box of expired medication, freshly cleared from the service station, and slated for registered disposal. I hadn't anticipated it at the time. 3 hours later, they would appear in Jiangtong's live stream. 2. At 11:40 in the evening, I received a call from the Education Bureau. "Shunkingda, someone has filed a real name report online accusing your company of using retired vehicles for exam transportation. And the service station was found to be storing expired medications. Exam safety cannot be compromised. All vehicles and service points will be suspended until the investigation is complete." By the time I arrived at the Education Bureau, a crowd had already gathered at the entrance. Jiangtong is live streaming. 2 secretly filmed videos play on a loop on the screen. The first paragraph is about those 2 old cars in the corner of the parking lot. The car's paint was peeling, and an out-of-service sign was stuck on the windshield. She only photographed the worn-out car body, not the sign beside it waiting to be dismantled. The second segment concerns that box of pharmaceuticals slated for destruction. She aimed the camera at the expiration date and said, with a plain tone, "This is what they call the Gaokao rescue station. The child was suffering from heat stroke, so they gave him expired medicine." Several parents stood beside her. Wang Jiangwo was the first to recognize me. His daughter, Wang Xian, who lives in the most distant Sherman Township, also signed up for the free exam transportation service. "Boss Shun, you owe us an explanation. Are those cars actually safe?" Another parent chimed in. "It sounds nice that it's free, but if something goes wrong, who's going to take responsibility?" I produced the vehicle inventory, annual inspection records, and the materials register. All 30 vehicles involved in transporting examinees were fully compliant. The 2 old cars in the video are not on the list of vehicles for the exam. The expired medications were identified during today's inspection and are awaiting centralized disposal. All service stations have been re-verified. Jiang Tong turned the camera toward me. "So, you admit there were decommissioned vehicles in the parking lot, and expired medication was found at the rescue station. The parking lot belongs to the passenger transport company. Not all vehicles are used for exam transportation. The fact that the expired medication was caught before distribution proves the inspection system is working." She smiled. "Listen to that. What a way. With words. Do we have to wait until the items are in the children's hands before we acknowledge there's a problem?" The number of viewers in the live stream keeps climbing. The comments were scrolling by in a blur. The college entrance exam is such a critical event. Why use a free ride? You get what you pay for. She must want to make a video to promote the company. Parents would rather spend their own money than risk their child's future. A staff member from the Education Bureau called me into the meeting room. "We'll review the materials overnight. However, the report has already sparked public concern. Services must be suspended until safety conditions are confirmed." I asked, "Until when is this on hold? If the investigation goes smoothly, we should have preliminary findings by tomorrow afternoon." Tomorrow afternoon, by 9 a.m. tomorrow, the first subject of the National College Entrance Examination will already have started. I reminded them, 12 routes serve 687 remote test takers. If we halt it now, we must immediately notify the school and parents to arrange their own transportation. The staff member nodded. "We'll issue an announcement, and the school will notify accordingly. Hold your positions for now. Let's wait until we've got the facts straight." I didn't agree. Standing by on site means the drivers, vehicles, and supplies remain my responsibility, given that the service has been officially suspended due to security risks. I must cease operations immediately to avoid incurring any new liabilities during the shutdown period. The meeting room fell silent. The staff member glanced at me. "You're going to move the car?" "Yes." "Shunzinga, the parents are probably just anxious," and spoke harshly. "The college entrance exam is what matters most for the child. Don't be stubborn." I placed the service suspension notice on the table. "I'm not being stubborn. I'm following the directive, At 12:28 a.m., the company received a stamped notice of service suspension. I sent the notification to the exam escort work group. All drivers, cease your exam transport duties immediately. Return your vehicles to the parking lot in an orderly sequence. 5 service stations have been decommissioned, and all supplies have been secured to all route coordinators. Please inform the schools and parents that the complimentary exam shuttle service has been suspended. Please make your own travel arrangements. The group fell silent for seconds. Driver Lao Zhao was the first to call. Mr. Shun, are we really pulling out? There's no early bus from Sherman Township. Where are the parents supposed to find a ride now? I looked at the notice on the desk. The Education Bureau and the school will make arrangements. The notice makes it perfectly clear. We can no longer provide this service. Old Zhao let out a sigh. Understood. The tents at the 5 service stations were taken down, one after another. The bottled water was loaded back onto the truck. Stationery, first aid kits, and emergency raincoats are all sealed off. The buses, originally parked at the township assembly point, gradually turned on their lights and returned to the company 1-1. Jiang Tong is still alive. She stood at the entrance of the Education Bureau, smiling after seeing the video of the vehicles leaving. Look, she fled overnight as soon as the report came in. If the vehicle was truly compliant, why wouldn't she dare to stay? Wang Zhenghua chimed in from the side. What about the kids tomorrow morning? Jiang Tong said immediately. I've already contacted several ride-hailing platforms and volunteer driver groups. There are plenty of kind-hearted people in society. It's not like we can't get the students to their exams. Without her, parents can sign up in the group chat, and I'll help coordinate everything. She sent a new chain list into the parents' group chat. Many people signed up immediately. Some parents even comforted each other. Ride-hailing is more convenient than buses, as it can take you directly to your doorstep. Teacher Jiang has hundreds of thousands of followers. He can definitely get a ride. Better to skip the free old bus at 1 o'clock in the morning. I received a private message from Wang Jianghua. Mr. Shun, we're just concerned about the child. It's nothing personal. So, after the investigation, will you still be picking up as usual? I replied, service is suspended. The vehicle will not be dispatched. Please make your own transportation arrangements in accordance with the notifications from the Education Bureau and the school. He didn't reply after that. At 1:30, the schools began sending out urgent notifications in the parent group chats one after another due to the suspension of the free transportation service for exam candidates. Parents are requested to ensure their children arrive at the examination venue on time. If you encounter any difficulties, report them to your homeroom teacher immediately. Registrations quickly surpassed 400. The county has temporarily coordinated buses, taxis, and official vehicles during the college entrance exam period. The county's transportation capacity is already strained. Standard buses cannot access certain narrow mountain roads. Taxis are also reluctant to drive dozens of kilometers empty into the village in the early morning. The school teacher keeps calling me. Mr. Shun, could we have a vehicle? Stand by for now. We'll resume immediately once the investigation results are available. I repeat the same sentence. Please have the Education Bureau first rescind the suspension notice and confirm the safety responsibilities in writing. No one can give it. At 3 o'clock in the morning, the last car in the parking lot turned off its engine. Old Joe handed me the keys. They're all back. 30 car keys were laid out on the table. It began to rain outside the window for at 4 o'clock in the morning on June 7th. There were still no vehicles in Sherman Township. Wang Jianghua called Jiang Tong over a dozen times. The line was constantly busy. Only 6 private cars from the volunteer carpool she had promised showed up. The driver was stunned when he saw over 400 examinees listed on the registration sheet. We thought it was just a quick stop in the county town to pick up a few people. There are just too many remote villages for us to cover. Parent groups have turned from gentle reminders into heated arguments. Mr. Jiang, where's the car now? My home is still 16 kilometers from the village, and the child can't walk that far. Didn't you say ride-hailing services would come to the village? No one's accepting the ride on the app. Jiang Tong finally replied, I was just helping to make the connection. I never promised everyone would get a ride. Parents should also take responsibility for their own children. Wang Jinghua saw this message and was so angry he nearly threw his phone. He had no choice but to take his daughter down the mountain on his motorcycle. The rain was getting heavier and heavier. The motorcycle broke down halfway, and the father and daughter had to push it through the muddy water for nearly 2 kilometers. By the time I reached the temporary gathering point at the township government, the bus that had been arranged for us was already full and had left. Wang Xiaoyan stood by the roadside crying, "Dad, am I going to miss it?" Wang Jinghua called me for the first time. "Mr. Shen, could you arrange for a car? Even if it's just one vehicle. Send the children from Sherman Township over." I said, "Exam escort services have been suspended. The vehicle is not authorized to perform the mission. Just do it for me, please. Xiaoyan can't afford to retake the year." The phone was filled with the sound of rain. I held my phone silent for a few seconds. "Uncle Wang, you are one of the individuals who reported the issue under your real name after the notice was issued. You also mentioned in the group that you would rather pay out of your own pocket than ride in our unsafe vehicles." His breath caught. I didn't know at the time. "So now, please contact the person authorized to arrange a vehicle." I hung up the phone and immediately relayed the call details to the duty officer at the Education Bureau. Not for revenge, because the suspension notice is still in effect. If a vehicle departs without authorization and an accident occurs en route, all responsibility will revert to the company and the driver. At 6:30 a.m. the county finally managed to coordinate more vehicles. Most examinees were transported to the test center in batches. However, due to traffic congestion, unfamiliar routes, and rainy conditions, over a dozen candidates only arrived 10 minutes before the exam began. The vehicle carrying Wang Xian was the last to arrive. She was soaked to the skin, and her hands wouldn't stop trembling. The invigilator was checking her ID when they realized she had left her exam admission ticket in the trunk of her stalled motorcycle. In previous years, emergency motorcycles registered at the service station would follow a fixed route to pick up and deliver documents. The service station was removed this year. The school teacher contacted the traffic police, who promptly dispatched officers to collect evidence. The round trip on the mountain road takes time. Wang Xian stood outside the examination center crying too hard to speak. Meanwhile, outside another exam site, a candidate experienced hypoglycemia due to rain exposure, an empty stomach, and anxiety. Staff immediately called emergency services. The ambulance from the nearby hospital is currently on another call. Originally, the service station, less than 50 m from the test center, was stocked with glucose, drinking water, and trained volunteers, but now, only a few flattened patches of grass remain where the tent had been. The examinee received prompt treatment and is out of danger, but he missed the start time for the first exam. At 5 o'clock past 9 o'clock in the morning, Jiang Tong started her live stream, standing outside the exam venue. Her eyes red, she said, "I never imagined things would turn out this way. Shen Kinga clearly has 30 cars. Why would he rather leave them parked than save a child in the live stream?" At first, some people even joined in me, "Even if you get reported, you can't take it out on the candidates. Didn't she always say it was for the kids? Why isn't she showing up now?" Jiang Tong watched the rising viewer count, her voice growing more anguished. "Yesterday, I was merely raising a reasonable question. If she were truly selfless, she should cooperate fully with the investigation instead of just pulling out." I did not respond to the live stream. Only the suspension notice, vehicle seizure records, parent notification records, and call receipts from the Education Bureau on duty staff had been compiled and submitted at 11 o'clock in the morning. The joint investigation team dispatched by the Education Bureau arrived at the company. The Transportation Market Regulation, Health, and Education departments conducted a joint verification. 30 exam transport vehicles were inspected one by one. The vehicle passed all inspections: annual check, insurance, tires, brakes, and driver qualifications. The investigators then examined the 2 old vehicles. The records for the old vehicle stated clearly, "Decommissioned from service, awaiting scrapping, and dismantling." They never appeared on the list of exam transport vehicles. Supplies at the service station were also unpacked again. All medications and supplies to be distributed are within their validity period. Jiang Tong photographed expired medicine with a red label affixed to the sealed box. Expired materials. Do not use. To be destroyed collectively. The label was deliberately cropped out of the video she posted. The investigation team asked, why were expired supplies found in the parking lot? I took out the inspection log. On the afternoon of June 6th, the 5 service stations conducted their final verification of supplies. Upon discovering a box of last year's leftover materials that had exceeded its expiration date, immediately remove it from storage, record it, and prepare to hand it over to a qualified organization for disposal. Without an inspection, they might just stay at the service station. The investigators nodded and took notes. At 3 p.m., the preliminary findings were released. Kinga Passenger Transport's free exam shuttle vehicles and personnel possess all required certifications, and the service station supplies are managed in accordance with regulations. The video was misleadingly edited. No evidence was found of using decommissioned vehicles or expired medical supplies. The Education Bureau simultaneously rescinded the suspension notice. The staff called me. Mr. Shun, there's another exam tomorrow. Service can now be resumed. As the matter has been clarified, I asked, what is the basis for the recovery? The suspension notice has been lifted. Who will bear the scheduling losses, driver downtime, and material waste caused by last night's sudden halt? There was a pause on the other end of the line. We can coordinate this later. The examinees still need transportation. The bigger picture comes first. Let's get tomorrow's exam drop-offs done. I watched the 30 cars neatly parked in the lot. Sorry, the free exam shuttle service has been discontinued. If you need a vehicle, you can follow the standard chartered car process. Sign a contract, purchase insurance, clarify responsibilities, and make the payment. The staff member's tone turned serious. Shun Kingda, now is not the time to talk about money. When they called it off yesterday, no one asked if it was the right time to talk about goodwill. The staff member fell silent for a moment, then shifted their tone. The parents have already realized their mistake. The children are innocent. You can't let the mistakes of a few parents affect everyone else. I didn't answer right away. Just send him the loss report the company compiled after last night's vehicle withdrawal. All 30 vehicles have been refueled and will require reinspection and redispatch following the temporary suspension of operations. Drivers and onboard staff from all 12 routes stayed on duty until the early hours. Their subsidies will be paid as usual. 5 service stations were dismantled overnight. Open drinking water, ice packs, and emergency supplies can no longer be returned to inventory. More importantly, vehicles are not permitted to operate on their own accord during the suspension period. If I were to bypass the official notice and take the bus out just because a parent pleaded with me, and if any accident occurred on the road, Kinga Passenger Transport would still be held fully liable. I asked. Last night, someone raised concerns about the vehicle's safety and demanded it be stopped immediately. The investigation results just came in today, and now they're demanding we start up immediately. Who gets to decide if it's safe or not? With just a single word, a staff member said in a low voice, of course, we have to follow the investigation's findings. From now on, we'll follow the rules as well. Whoever needs the service submits the application. Whoever approves it signs and takes responsibility. Whoever requests a temporary change leaves a written record. You can't call it my public service project only when you need someone to take responsibility. When they want me to comply, they say the college entrance exam is a public matter in the end. They didn't try to persuade me any further before hanging up. He said he would, with the school and the transportation department as soon as possible. In less than 10 minutes, Wang Zhenghua also called. Boss Shun, the investigation has cleared your name. Just let the buses run again tomorrow. Xian has already missed one subject. No more mistakes can be allowed for the other children. I asked him, you signed off on the immediate halt last night, didn't you? The line went quiet. He certainly signed it. His name was listed first on that signed complaint. I was worried about the child at the time. 2. Your concern is justified. So, the investigation was not wrong. and suspending the service was not wrong, either. You can't have it both ways, demanding that no car moves during the investigation, yet expecting me to act as if nothing happened when you need me. Wang Jianhua's voice was hoarse. What will it take for you to deliver it? Sign the contract through the proper channels. Make sure the vehicle, driver, insurance, costs, and responsibilities are all clearly outlined. Whoever signs it, I'm accountable to them. This time, he didn't call me petty. After the investigation results were released, Jiang Tong deleted the video, but she didn't apologize. She posted an update. Questioning public services is the right of every citizen, even if an investigation finds no issues. The importance of oversight cannot be denied. The comment section no longer supported her as it had the day before. Someone saved the clip of her promising to contact the volunteer driver team during the live stream. You said you could fix the traffic, but in the end, only 6 cars showed up. Reporting is fine. But why did you deliberately crop out the to be destroyed label? You refused to admit you misled people, yet expect others to keep providing free service, without regard for their losses. Wang Jianhua also posted a lengthy apology in the parents' group chat. He said he was only concerned about vehicle safety, and didn't realize it would affect the child. He said Wang Xian's admission ticket was eventually delivered by a traffic officer, but she had already missed the entry time. He asked me if I could resume the exam shuttle service for the other students. I didn't argue in the group chat. I just sent a single quote. Kinga Passenger Transport, Kakao Charter Service, Vehicles, drivers, insurance, route planning, and emergency support, all clearly priced. The contract shall be signed by the school. The parent committee, or a parent representative. Costs are shared based on the actual route and number of participants. The 5 service stations are no longer funded by me personally. If required, the relevant department shall approve, procure materials, and assign qualified personnel. The quotation is followed by actual expenditures from the past 6 years. Fuel costs, toll fees, driver allowances, vehicle insurance, emergency vehicles, site supplies, and staff costs for this year is projected to be 198.600 yuan. Jiang Tong's casual remark about sending a few spare cars belied the immense effort behind it. 47 drivers and staff had their schedules arranged half a month in advance. Maintenance crews worked 3 consecutive nights inspecting the vehicles, and contingency plans were prepared for every mountain road. After reviewing the breakdown, one parent raised a question. Your company already owns the vehicles, so why is the cost so high? The finance staff didn't argue, simply replying, the vehicle belongs to the company and is not for personal free use. Drivers require wages for their work. Fuel must be purchased, and any accidents must be covered by insurance. Another parent asked, what if our child is late, even though we've paid? I replied, the contract specifies the departure time, waiting period, and contingency plans. The carrier is liable for compensation per the contract in case of negligence. If a parent fails to deliver the examinee to the designated meeting point as agreed, the responsibility lies with the parent. The group chat fell silent once more. In the past, all they had to do was write a name on a form, and they could count on the bus being at the village entrance right on time. If someone was late, the driver would wait. Someone forgot something, so the emergency vehicle went to retrieve it. Someone changed the location at the last minute, and the staff worked to coordinate all costs. And risks are masked by the phrase free test prep. It wasn't until this moment that they realized nothing truly comes for free. Over the past 6 years, I've borne the cost. The group fell silent for a long time. Someone asked, it used to be free. Why is it suddenly now? I replied, I used to take it unwillingly. Now that every act of goodwill risks being interpreted as a performance, let every service be governed by clearly defined contractual obligations. It's not about retaliation. It's about preventing further controversy. The school finalized the contract for the next day's exam transportation through the official procedures. The education department coordinated special funding, so families in need did not have to bear any costs. That evening, the 28 buses set out once again. The other 2 routes were handled by the public transport company. All vehicles are equipped with real-time positioning. Each candidate has a transportation list and an emergency contact. The service station is jointly established by the hospital, school, and volunteer association, drug registration, personnel qualification, and responsible units are all displayed on the public notice board. The second day of exam drop-offs went smoothly. No one asked me why it can't be free anymore. Once the bill was laid on the table, everyone finally saw just how many people, how much money, and how much responsibility were really behind the idea of just doing a little good deed. After the college entrance examination concluded, the joint investigation announced its final findings. Jiang Tong, seeking online attention, and seeking revenge for being rejected in a business collaboration, deliberately edited, secretly filmed footage to falsely claim that Xinghe Bus Company was using outdated vehicles and expired medications. She also assured parents that sufficient vehicles had been arranged, despite knowing full well that transportation capacity could not be guaranteed, leading parents to make incorrect assumptions. The platform suspended her account. I am filing a lawsuit against Jiang Tong and the accounts involved in spreading false information in accordance with the law. The court ruled that the relevant individuals must delete the content, issue a public apology, and compensate the company for operational suspension and reputational damages. The parents who filed the real name reports were not held accountable. Filing a report is their right. However, they must accept the real-world consequences that follow a report, triggering an investigation and a service suspension. The Education Bureau has also further refined the public service procedures for transporting students to the National College entrance examination. From now on, all civilian vehicles participating in exam transportation must sign an agreement in advance. Who reviews, who dispatches, and who assumes emergency responsibility. Everything must be clearly defined, no longer relying on an individual's temporary goodwill, nor shifting all the pressure onto the service provider after a dispute arises. Someone asked me, "The investigation has cleared you, so why not reinstate the free exam shuttle service?" I said, "Proving my innocence is the only way to clear my name. It cannot bring back the nights the drivers work for nothing, nor can it erase the losses from the shutdown, nor can we guarantee that everyone will remember today's findings the next time someone files a report." I didn't ignore the candidates. Xinghe Bus still handles exam transportation. I cover the expenses for families in need through a separate subsidy from the company's Education Assistance Fund. However, each subsidy requires an application, review, and supporting documentation. Every service is covered by a contract. Kindness can be free. Responsibility must be clearly defined. That summer, Wang Xiaoyan came to the company to see me. She missed the first exam, ended up with a disappointing final grade, and decided to repeat the year. Wang Zhenghua stood behind her, head bowed. "Mr. Shen, I'm sorry. I thought I was protecting the child when Jiang Tong spoke so confidently. Only later did I realize I hadn't even looked at what you'd prepared. I just followed through with the report." I turned my gaze toward Wang Xian. She didn't plead for her father, but simply asked, "Can I still ride in your car next year?" "Yes." "Will there be a charge?" "Fees are charged according to the contract. Families in need can apply for a subsidy." She nodded. "All right." She didn't cry, nor did she ask me to make an exception for her, because she missed the exam. The following year, she applied for a travel subsidy through her school. She took the Xinghe passenger transport exam shuttle bus and arrived at the test center on time. Later, she was admitted to the provincial normal university. When she mailed me a copy of her admission letter, there was only a single sheet of paper in the envelope. "Auntie Shun, thank you for still offering to take me again this year. And thank you for showing me that helping someone and holding someone accountable are two different things." 3 years later, the county had established a regular system for escorting students to the National College entrance exams. The Education Department conducted a unified tender for transportation vehicles. The school reviews the list of students eligible for transportation in advance. Medical institutions are responsible for the first aid stations at examination sites. Volunteers are responsible for providing directions, but they do not handle medication or transport candidates on their own. Every aspect has a designated budget and a person in charge. No one has to rely solely on sheer enthusiasm to manage 30 vehicles and 5 service stations anymore. Kinga Passenger Transport continues to donate a portion of its exam shuttle service revenue each year. But donations go directly into a dedicated account, with purposes disclosed publicly and subject to audit. Some people say I've become more petty. Previously, everything was free. Now, even a case of water needs to be registered. I don't deny it. Kindness, without boundaries, is most easily taken for granted. When things go wrong, they'll ask why you didn't do better. Only when payment is required do they carefully read the terms, confirm responsibilities, and value the resources. The day before the college entrance exam, I came to the parking lot as usual. 30 buses are parked in neat rows. The driver inspected the tires, brakes, and safety hammer on each vehicle. It's almost exactly the same as it was back then. Unlike before, each vehicle now has not only a route sign, but also a notice displaying the carrier, responsible person, and supervision hotline. The service contract is locked in the office cabinet. The insurance is now in effect. At 4:30 a.m., the first car pulled out of the parking lot. Old Joe rolled down the car window and asked me, "Mr. Shun, still feeling the pressure this year?" I smiled. Not nervous. Everything that needs to be done is clearly outlined. Headlights flickered on one after another, each car winding its way onto its own mountain road. I'm still willing to do something for those children. I won't let my silence anymore bear the weight of everyone else's decisions after my kindness was taken for granted. I didn't let go of it. I simply assigned it a price, defined its boundaries, and designated a responsible party. From now on, I'm responsible to whoever signs the contract. He who makes the decision bears the consequences. And story 2. My sister, and I as human priestesses, were chosen by the 4 divine beast clans to ascend as celestial consorts. The divine beasts' bloodlines had weakened over millennia, without new divine offspring, threatening their celestial standing. In my past life, I wed the elegant azure dragon Saren, and bore his dragon heir. Within 3 moons, overjoyed, Saren crowned me Dragon Queen, elevating his clan to supremacy among divine beasts. My sister was captivated by the white tiger Cain's ferocity, but after marrying him, she failed to conceive a beast child. In fury, he cast her down the immortal slaying platform, shattering her celestial bones and severing every meridian. Consumed by vengeance, she seduced the demon lord to storm the 9th heaven. Her first act was piercing me and my dragonling with 10,000 arrows. When I opened my eyes again, I'd returned to the day of the beast husband selection, as my sister feigned weakness to collapse into the azure dragon deity's arms, her breath whispering against his neck. I knew she'd been reborn, too. But dear sister, how do you think my beast child was conceived? May you endure this endless torment in my stead for all eternity. Divine Saren, I've no strength left. Won't you listen if my heart still trembles? Latvinia weakly pressed a hand to her brow before collapsing into the azure dragon Saren's embrace. The way she was preening told me she'd been reborn, too. The wedding priests exchanged shocked glances, stunned by the human realm's saintess acting so brazenly wanton. In our past life, when we were both said to become beast consorts, she was the first to make her choice. Only 3 of the 4 divine beasts had arrived. The azure dragon Saren was noble and refined, while the vermilion bird Zephyr flaunted his flamboyant, somewhat effeminate charm. Only the white tiger Cain stood tall and mighty, with chiseled 8-pack abs radiating raw power and dominance. Drawn to masculine partners, she chose Cain, without hesitation. Yet no one anticipated Cain's violent temper, treating women as playthings. He nearly beat his sister to death, merely for her infertility. Meanwhile, the azure dragon Saren showed me unwavering tenderness in private, while we appeared as celestial soulmates admired throughout the immortal realm. 1. So she blamed everything on me, then descended to the mortal realm, and bewitched the demon lord into wreaking havoc in the heavenly realm. She bound me, and my dragon child Soren, with immortal binding ropes, unleashing countless swords upon us until we perished in agony. Soren had just learned to speak then. Hearing his pitiful cries in that tender, milky voice shattered my heart into 1,000 pieces. With grief, remembering this, my blood boiled. With rage, and I had to clench my teeth to maintain composure. Have you 2 sisters made your choice? The celestial emperor's commanding voice echoed from above, snapping me back to reality. Saintess Lavinia has long admired God Saren. I choose the Azure Dragon clan. Lavinia blurted out first, glaring at me from the corner of her eye as if fearing I'd steal her choice. Unaware that Saren beside her had stiffened, I lowered my head and murmured, I choose the Black Tortoise deity. Lavinia nodded in satisfaction at my non-confrontational attitude, her smile dripping with smugness. With your plain looks, sister, that ugly turtle makes the perfect match for you. They say the Black Tortoise deity is dark-skinned and hideous, an immortalized 10,000-year-old turtle spirit. No wonder he's absent today, probably too ashamed to show his face. She made no effort to hide her smugness, as if having a second chance at life guaranteed her victory. The celestial emperor cleared his throat with a disdainful glance. Lavinia clung to Azure Dragon Saren's arm, puffing up like a victorious rooster as she glared down at me. Juniper, I know you're bitter about not marrying into the Azure Dragon clan, but resorting to a turtle. You're the holy maiden. Wedding a reptile would disgrace all humankind. Don't worry, sister. When I give birth to the divine dragon, if you're truly desperate, you can become my lowly foot-washing maid. I might even throw you some scraps. My gaze swept across her convulsively laughing face, catching sight of Saran's, knuckles whitening from clenched fists. Ah! I swallowed the sneer burning in my throat. Lavinia believed Saran to be the epitome of grace and virtue, never suspecting the bone-chilling madman lurking beneath that gentle facade. Though named the Azure Dragon, Saran is utterly unworthy of the title. With his pitiful talents, that's why he's obsessively fixated on siring a dragon heir to restore their clan's glory. His methods are so vile and bizarre that just thinking about them turns my stomach, and nothing wounds his pride more than public humiliation. Lavinia's insolence today has clearly enraged him. I can't wait to see Lavinia's reaction when she learns the truth. Holy Maiden Juniper, with Vermilion Bird and White Tiger deities present, are you certain about choosing Black Tortoise? I understood why the Celestial Emperor asked that my sister and I were revered as holy maidens in the mortal realm, destined to ascend to heaven when we came of age. Only through my past life did I realize all that talk of being a holy maiden worshipped by thousands was nothing but lies. The ancient divine beasts needed to reproduce, but their offspring's power was too immense. Only my sister and I possessed the constitution to barely withstand bearing them. They called us beast consorts, but we were merely vessels, breeding tools, incubators, mortals to be trampled upon. With this in mind, I answered, yes, I choose the Black Tortoise deity. My resolve comes from having no other choice. The Azure Dragon is hypocritical, the White Tiger is brutal, and the Vermilion Bird favors male companionship. Going there would be suicide. As for the Black Tortoise deity Merle, I know little beyond that in my past life. When my sister led the demon lords to wreak havoc in the celestial realm, I caught a glimpse of a shadowy figure that seemed to be heading straight for me. For some reason, I just felt like taking a gamble. The Celestial Emperor nodded in silent approval of my choice, and lightly clapped his hands. Suddenly, divine magpies swarmed forth as petals swirled through the air, and my sister's robes transformed into an identical bridal gown of sheer silk. Just like in the previous life, the grand wedding ceremony officially began. The difference was Lavinia, holding Saran's hand, dancing gracefully, with an air of haughtiness, while I walked alone down the crimson and silk-covered path, utterly solitary. They say the dark warrior deity hasn't shown himself for 1,000 years. Dear sister, aren't you worried about becoming a grass widow after this marriage? Lavinia covered her mouth, beaming with triumph, ignoring her taunts. I prepared to kneel in reverence. A sudden gust lifted me effortlessly into a chilling embrace. My eyes widened in shock as the man before me came into focus. Her skin was like fine porcelain, with crimson eyes that held a sinister glint. The contrast of ruby lips against pearly teeth lent her otherwise aloof features a youthful vitality. My divine consort is not yours to command. Is that the Black Tortoise? Merle! Discipline your woman properly, lest I take matters into my own hands next time. Merle swept me into his arms and flew away right before everyone's eyes. His icy body temperature made me shiver uncontrollably as Lavinia's furious scream echoed behind us. You Juniper! I swear I'll breed a spirit beast before you in this lifetime. Lavinia's failure to conceive a spirit beast in her past life had become an obsession. She probably believed bearing one would grant her supreme status. Little did she know, the truth was quite the opposite. The more productive a tool becomes, the more ruthlessly it gets exploited. Merle dumped me in the lower Mystic Realm's grand hall before vanishing into thin air. I scrambled up, wincing in pain, only to realize this place was worlds apart from the left Mystic Realm. In the Azure Dragon's former realm, mountains and rivers embraced the land. Numerous branches of the Dragon clan thrived here, with celestial attendants and low-level spirit beasts bustling about, a scene of vibrant prosperity. But this place, dark clouds loom overhead, casting an eerie gloom everywhere. Not a single celestial attendant remains in sight. You'll stay in the left wing, enter my chambers, without summons, and you'll pay, with your life. A chilling voice whispered in my ear, sending shivers down my spine as I hurried toward my chamber. The moment I sat down, I crossed my legs and began channeling my energy. Indeed, this was the truth I'd only come to realize in the final moments of my past life. If a holy maiden's body can birth divine beasts brimming with spiritual power, doesn't that prove our bodies can absorb spiritual energy, making them perfect vessels for cultivation? When a man possesses such constitution, the world would tempt for him through trials to cultivate immortality. Yet when a woman has it, they call her a sacred maiden, fit only for bearing offspring. Ha! I let out a scornful laugh. I refuse to bow to this fate, since deities show no mercy. I'll forge my own path through cultivation. Mer's a bit eccentric, but he doesn't seem interested in mating or bothering me, so I've got plenty of time to cultivate the month past uneventfully. All my meridians feel unblocked. My spiritual energy has leveled up significantly. Now I can materialize condensed energy. Maybe it's just me, but the spiritual energy here seems to be growing more abundant by the day. Before I could figure things out, Lavinia showed up at my doorstep first. Juniper, are you hiding something from me? She glared at me through gritted teeth. My eyes swept over her noticeably sallow face, the blackened tips of her fingernails, and those ambiguous red marks on her neck. Seemed Saran had run out of patience with her and resorted to measures ahead of schedule. In my past life, I married Saran with joyous anticipation. The first 2 months were harmonious, but by the 3rd month, his impatience became unmistakably clear. Under the pretense of caring for my health, he forced me to drink bitter medicine daily. Each dose brought nightmarish fevers and exhausting awakenings. My constitution deteriorated until, in that 3rd month, I conceived the spirit beast. Only after overhearing celestial envoys did I discover the truth. That poison was bone replacement powder, designed to drain spiritual energy and immortal bones, hastening the beast fetus incubation. The more you drink, the more it drains your life force until nothing remains but a hollow skeleton. Only later did I realize Saren's cruelty knew no bounds. Sister, what are you talking about? I don't understand. I feigned ignorance, looking at her with puzzled eyes. What the hell is that drug? Tell me now. She grabbed my wrist with a threatening glare. What drug? I don't know anything. What am I supposed to tell you? Am I the only one who got reborn? Lavinia stood dazed, her mind clouded with confusion. A sudden whoosh pierced the air as an icy divine force blasted forth, sending Lavinia flying dozens of feet away. Blood gushed from her mouth as she clutched her stomach, her face deathly pale. A deep, languid voice resonated from above. Dare to cause trouble in my domain, seeking death. A divine force then swept me into the chamber to the right, where I met piercing vertical pupils and a face radiating terrifying authority yet inexplicable divine benevolence. As countless escape plans, possible explanations, and even desperate thoughts of resistance raced through my mind, Merle suddenly snorted coldly, furrowing his brow as he spoke. I've been channeling spiritual energy to you for a whole month. Yet you're still such a weakling that others dare bully you right at your doorstep. I froze. So, the abundant spiritual energy I received daily actually came from him. but we're not even related. He neither intends to use my body for reproduction nor seeks anything from me. Why would he give me his energy? As I pondered this, I heard him rest his chin on his hand and murmur, "Could it be you've grown dim-witted?" Sensing Mero's temper had cooled, I batted my lashes and looped my arms around his neck. Since cultivating spiritual power alone was too slow, I'd use every resource at hand, including men. For a whole month prior, his door remained firmly shut against me. Now, the opportunity was within reach. I wouldn't let it slip away. Mero, who had been sizing me up moments ago, darted back onto the bed with a hissing warning. His jet-black hair cascaded over his shoulders, the robe carelessly hanging open. Though frowning, he exuded a strangely alluring elegance in his languid disarray. "I know you haven't been sleeping well. My lord, let me help you. For the past month, every night I've endured the unbearable sound of scales scraping against the floor. I wasn't sure before, but catching sight of the crimson on his serpent tail, I knew he'd endured endless torment. As the mortal realm's saintess, I happen to possess means to ease such suffering." Under Mero's watchful gaze, I cautiously approached him. Yet, just as I neared him, his serpent tail coiled around me, flinging me violently against the ground where razor-sharp scales sliced through my flesh like blades. Blood soaked through my robes, the searing pain bringing me to my senses. Before me stood the black tortoise deity, a capricious war god who could snuff out my life in an instant if provoked. Yet, I steeled my nerves and decided to roll the dice, channeling my spiritual energy. While smearing blood across my body, I instantly saturated the entire chamber. With my scent, I eyed closer cautiously. Mero's piercing gaze flickered, but he remained silent instead, patting the space beside him with his serpentine tail. How amusing. "Come here." I obeyed, limping toward him as pain shot through my body. "TCH. Pathetic." Mero coiled around me and gently placed me beside him, channeling a bit of spiritual energy that instantly healed my wounds. I knelt properly beside him and began radiating my own spiritual aura. Mero gave me a sidelong glance before lazily closing his eyes, soon drifting into deep slumber. As I rubbed my sore legs and tried to get off the bed, I realized Mero's serpentine tail had silently coiled around my calves. Just as I reached to untie it, he instinctively pulled me into his embrace. Unlike the chill of his tail, his arms were wonderfully warm and carried the soothing scent of pine. Before I knew it, my guard dropped, and I drifted into deep sleep. The next morning, I woke first when the sun was already high in the sky. Gazing at his sculpted profile, I murmured under my breath, "Weird as he may be, that face of his is seriously handsome." Suddenly, his eyes flew open. When our gazes met, a flicker of surprise crossed his face before he instantly hurled me out the door. "You'll attend to me every night from now on, and stay away otherwise." "Humph. Don't think I don't know what you're scheming." I rubbed my aching back in exasperation. What a typical hit-and-run guy. For the next month, Merle clung to me every night. 3. Sometimes I worried he might try something, but he seemed to have no such intentions, just treating me like a body pillow. His sleep improved remarkably, his mood lifted, and he even started giving me occasional guidance during the day. With his guidance, my spiritual power advanced by leaps and bounds. Not only did I establish my foundation, but my internal energy visibly condensed at astonishing speed, breaking through to the golden core stage. Feeling this complete bodily transformation, I was genuinely overjoyed. Merle wore a proud expression. 2. Clearly thinking, "This student shows promise." When the 3rd month came around, and word spread of Lavinia's imminent labor, I asked Merle to accompany me to the Left Dominion. The entire Left Dominion was buzzing with joyous preparations for the dragon whelp's arrival. Even the divine Saran was radiant with delight, welcoming streams of guests to witness the dragonling's birth. As the human saintess, I could feel occasional malicious gazes lingering upon me. The divine being White Tiger Cane even grabbed a lock of my hair, toying with it while giving me a provocative look. "Little beauty, that worthless serpent can't satisfy you, can he? Why not come with me instead? I've got ways to send you to heavenly bliss." I channeled sword energy through my fingertips and cleanly sever that strand of hair. His face twisted in shock and indignation at the perceived insult. In an instant, he summoned spiritual and launched a palm strike straight at me, but a frigid gust swept through, sending him flying backward to crash onto the ground. You, daring to lay hands on what's mine. Merle shielded me, morphing into serpent form as his powerful tail impaled Cain's abdomen. A backhanded strike sent the hostile beast gods flying. Cain fell silent instantly. Among beast gods, might makes right. None dared protest, even through gritted teeth. Merle's tail whipped free, flinging half of Cain's severed arm. His obsidian scales gleamed coldly, eyes radiating lethal intent. He made it crystal clear to everyone. Hands off his mate! Saran quickly intervened. Great deity Merle, why provoke the pantheon over a mere mortal after your long absence? Besides, why teach cultivation to mortals? Their role is reproduction. What if they flee? Merle clearly dismissed him, with a disdainful glance, retorting, only worthless beasts rely on breeding to grow their numbers, and only pathetic orcs would chain their mates. Saran froze under his intimidating aura, not daring to speak, though I noticed his hands clenching into fists. I quickly tugged at Mo's sleeve, signaling him to shut up. We're in this together now. If he gets targeted for revenge, I'll be dragged down. With him. Divine Saran, please forgive my intrusion. Where might my sister be? I've come to visit her. I quickly plastered on a warm smile to change the subject. After getting the reply, I immediately dragged Mo toward the back hall, terrified the socially inept troublemaker would offend someone again. But Mo remained ungrateful, acting like he couldn't care less. He held his head high, with an air of aristocratic aloofness, looking down on everyone. Only after my urging did he lazily follow along. With me, his serpentine tail tapped impatiently against the ground as he slithered behind me. Why do you smile so sweetly at him? I've never seen you smile at me like that. His towering orc frame practically engulfed me, leaving me utterly flustered. Back then, I was the one eagerly fawning over him. Yet he kept pushing me away. Now he's blaming me. I mumbled, well, maybe if you weren't so damn high maintenance. What was that? Mo wrapped his arms around me from behind. Ever since we started sharing a bed, he'd grown accustomed to keeping me within intimate proximity. Even in public, he saw nothing improper about it. I hurried along, with my head down, ignoring him. The next instant, he scooped me up against his chest. Startled, I threw my arms around his neck, my face burning crimson to the tips of my ears. Montag scoffed. Short legs like yours. At this pace, we'll never get there. Without a second thought, he casually scooped me up and carried me to Lavinia's chambers. Her quarters felt eerily lifeless. Hulking celestial guards surrounded her, watching her every move. Lavinia's face was caked with thick powder, her eyes swollen and red, a heavy scarf wrapped around her neck, with deep hollows under her eyes. Though the celestial realm enjoyed eternal spring, she was bundled up in long robes and skirts from head to toe. When she saw me, her eyes gleamed with triumph. This lifetime, I've conceived the dragon heir. Before you. Now it's your turn to envy me. I blinked innocently. Congratulations. Cease. Lavinia glared at me. Aren't you jealous? Why would I be? I never wanted divine beasts anyway, and I'm perfectly content as is. I deliberately linked arms with Merle, finally drawing Lavinia's gaze behind me, as if struck by lightning. Her voice shot up an octave as she sprang to her feet. Isn't Xian Wu just a turtle? Then why do you always get the best? Why are all men drawn to you? Why? Merle! Merle frowned. Mad woman. Then suddenly, Lavinia burst into laughter. Whatever. In this life, I'll bear countless beastlings. Once the dragonkin prosper, I'll be hailed as a meritorious servant. I'll outrank you as the chief beast consort. I sneered coldly, but held my tongue. Her bloated body told me she'd been force-fed potent elixirs. Her spiritual essence was being rapidly drained by the dragon spawn within. Yet compared to my haggard past life, Lavinia looked utterly drained, her face ashen like a corpse. I had a hunch, but kept it to myself. As dusk fell, Lavinia still showed no signs of labor. Saren's expression darkened. while the waiting celestial officials grew increasingly impatient. In my past life, I was force-fed medicine during my beastkin pregnancy, making the delivery excruciatingly difficult. The dragon beast's birth was a divine sign. Rolling violet clouds and intermittent thunder heralded the arrival of a sacred creature. As hours passed, without movement in the hall, many celestial officials began departing late into the night. Merle grew impatient and prepared to drag me away. A sudden thunderclap split the clouds as commotion erupted from the inner chamber. "Help! The Holy Maiden can't deliver the baby. There's so much blood." Saren and several divine lords rushed in as a heart-wrenching scream split the air, and lightning tore the heavens asunder. Lavinia was finally born, but Saren stormed out of the inner chamber, with a dark and face, trailed by several azure dragon tribesmen whose complexions shifted between red and green. The celestial messenger revealed that Lavinia's difficult labor was caused by carrying not just one, but multiple draconic offspring. What should have been a joyous occasion turned grim when the 4 dragon whelps she birthed became entangled into a single mass. Limbs fused, with legs, tails coiled around necks. The creatures had grown together into a grotesque flesh orb. The traumatic delivery caused catastrophic hemorrhaging that nearly claimed her life. The memory of my past life flashed through my mind, draining the color from my face. Merle's almond-shaped eyes swept over me as he frowned impatiently and pulled me into his embrace. "You're such a handful. Came looking for trouble yourself, and now you're scared stiff." After he brought me back, I developed a fever and started having nightmares. He gently tapped my back with his serpent tail, surprisingly tender. "If you don't want kids, then don't have them." Getting scared just from watching childbirth. Pathetic. Watching Lavinia give birth made me think of my innocent child Soren from my past life. I was lucky enough to be reborn. But where is he now? Heart heavy, with sorrow, I pushed Merle away for the first time. Instead of the expected anger and complaints, I felt a refreshing spiritual energy wash over me, nourishing my entire being. "Don't be afraid. I'll stay with you." Merle's voice came from behind me, and I suddenly felt an inexplicable sense of peace, drifting into deep sleep. When I woke again, 3 days had already passed. I heard Lavinia was desperate to see me, but Merle kept turning her away. Only now did I learn that Lavinia's quadruplets were stillborn, passing shortly after birth, leaving her severely weakened. The immortals whispered that her children weren't sired by the azure dragon deity, but by lesser draconic kin. For in a fury, Saren dragged Lavinia to the lightning tribunal, ready to unleash the thunder whip upon her. At that moment, Lavinia revealed the truth. With a heart-wrenching cry, the seemingly elegant azure dragon deity was actually impotent, forcing her to drink potions while employing dark magic in bed. He used her blood in sacrificial rituals to activate his dragon essence for impregnation. She endured daily bloodletting and the torment of his dark sorcery. Left with no choice, she sought out other male beasts of the azure dragon clan to conceive. Determined to maximize her chances, she went all the way and secretly rendezvoused with multiple azure dragon clansmen. The celestial beings of the 9 heavens were utterly shocked. While startled by the quadruple monstrous births, they were even more fascinated by the revelation that the dignified azure dragon god was inadequate. Saren's face darkened with fury, vowing to skin Lavinia alive and cast her down from the celestial realms. But just then, the white tiger cane arrived and forcibly took Lavinia away. "Get out!" Before long, Lavinia somehow became pregnant again. She swaggered up to me, with her belly protruding prominently. "How about that? Don't flatter yourself thinking you're the only one men fancy. I could have anyone I want." Her behavior left me speechless and disgusted after what Cain did to her in her past life. I can't believe she'd go back to him in this one. Is she really incapable of living without clinging to some man? She kept ranting. "What's so great about Merle? Still couldn't get you pregnant with a divine beast. Face it, you're just a barren hen. Perfect match for that worthless turtle of yours." A sharp smack rang out. My palm struck her face, leaving an immediate red welt. "You think everyone's as man-obsessed as you are? Is your worth as the Holy Maiden just breeding children, clinging to men for survival, and constantly putting me down to make yourself feel better? Lavinia, let me make this clear. I've never forgotten the grudges from our past life. This time, I'll make you repay them 1,000-fold. Lavinia's eyes flashed, with shock before twisting into madness. Ha ha ha. Juniper, I knew you'd been reborn. Too. Even if we were reborn 1,000 times. You'd never best me. You lack the ruthlessness. You're simply not worthy to challenge me. I scoffed coldly. Haven't you noticed your health deteriorating? Lavinia's arrogant smile faltered. What do you mean? I merely smiled faintly, and turned away. With a sweep of my sleeve, she still tried to chase after me. But, with a casual flick of my hand, I sent her flying meters away. She crashed against a rock, coughing up blood. I froze in shock. Since when had my spiritual power grown this formidable? By the time I returned to the lower Cien realm, dusk had fallen. As usual, I headed to Merle's chambers, yet unexpectedly, he didn't open the door for me. I simply thought he was in a bad mood, and didn't pay much attention. But in the following days, I still couldn't get him to open the door or even catch a glimpse of him. Without overthinking it, I proceeded with my plan and went to Lavinia's chambers. Just as I expected, Lavinia began to panic after hearing what I said. Saran force-fed her bitter tonics, and coupled with delivering a stillborn, she was already frail, now pregnant, with tiger cubs again. She looked even more haggard than during her first pregnancy. She couldn't stop retching, couldn't keep food down, and lashed out at her celestial attendants who dared not protest the abuse. So, she ordered her servants to gather rare celestial treasures, consuming these potent supplements without restraint. That wasn't enough. She ordered Cain to seize the mystic heaven pool from the vermilion bird's divine territory. She used its waters to rejuvenate her beauty and heal her body. Before long, she truly regained her original youthful vitality, now carrying a divine beast in her womb. She could swagger through the White Tiger Hall with impunity, while Cain doted on her every need. Perhaps she's settling an old score from their past lives. Or maybe she's just reveling in her triumph. She actually made Cain serve as her mount, brandishing a whip from who knows where, while bossing him around like a slave driver. The moment Cain showed the slightest irritation, she'd immediately clutch her stomach and feign pain. The once ferocious white tiger deity of their past incarnation now crouched beside her like a declawed housecat, meekly enduring her tantrums. But, can a person's temperament really change so easily? Cain's current restraint stems solely from her pregnancy. Though Lavinia knows this, she clings to the belief that her sacred maiden constitution allows endless childbearing. Instituting perpetual favor. When night fell, I swiftly knocked out an attendant, used transformation magic, and infiltrated the serving retinue. The warm waters of a celestial pool enveloped Lavinia's naked form as she reclined. Within, she ordered the celestial attendants to gather petals of divine flowers and beautifying fruits, then cast them all into the profound heaven pool. While my subordinates busied themselves scattering petals, I secretly slit my wrist and let my blood flow into the pool unnoticed. Everyone knows the human saintess makes an ideal breeding vessel, but none realize our saintess's blood is the true source of power. After delivering quadruplets and consuming spirit-draining medicine, she exhausted her vital essence, leaving her utterly haggard. Only by cultivating one's own spiritual foundation can recovery be gradually achieved. Yet, she sought external shortcuts through potent supplements, a classic case of weak constitution rejecting nourishment, causing the accumulated spiritual energy to stagnate. Combined with my spiritual blood, it becomes the perfect catalyst. Seeing Lavinia's flushed skin, I knew the transformation was complete, and turned to leave, unnoticed. Lavinia snapped abruptly. Are you new here? Where are your manners? Don't you know I hate drafts during my bath? Did you open that door on purpose to freeze me to death? Turn around and face me. You deserve a slap. I frowned and froze. In place, the disguise spell drains tremendous spiritual energy. I can only maintain it for 2 hours, and the time's almost up. If caught in her domain, she'd torture me relentlessly until I begged for death. In this vast celestial realm, no one would notice a missing mortal. Just as I hesitated whether to turn back, A tremendous explosion erupted outside. 5. A panicked messenger rushed in. Disaster. Divine Lord Cain has been wounded. Lavinia's attention was caught, and she hastily dressed before rushing out. Amid the commotion, I slipped away under cover of darkness. My disguise was failing, and I felt dizzy, nearly collapsing. Suddenly, I stumbled into a warm embrace, the scent of pine filling my senses. Haven't seen you for just a few days, and you've grown so bold. If I hadn't made some noise, do you think you'd still be in one piece right now? Emma led me back, and seeing the obvious concern on his face warmed my heart. After 2 lifetimes, there's finally someone who genuinely cares about my safety. If I don't come find you, you won't seek me out. How can you be so heartless, you human woman? After thinking it over for days, if you don't want divine beast offspring, we'll stop sharing a bed. I haven't slept well these nights, but I'd never force you. I burst out laughing, and instinctively wrapped my arms around his neck. You don't actually think sleeping together automatically makes babies, do you? Of course, that's how it's always worked since ancient times. Merle nodded confidently, only to catch me smirking. I cupped his chin and pressed my lips directly against his. Merle only hesitated for a second before turning eager. But his clumsy, chaotic nibbling made it obvious he had no idea what he was doing. So, later that night, I slipped into his bed, without hesitation, showed him through actions how to make offspring. Waking the next morning, I clutched my nearly broken waist, legs so weak I almost tumbled from bed, until Merle tenderly carried me to bathe. Nobody warned me serpent anatomy worked like this. Truthfully, I didn't mind these acts, especially with my unique constitution allowing dual cultivation to elevate my spiritual power. In that case, I might as well take matters into my own hands. But Merle seemed to have developed a taste for it, and from that day onward, things spiraled out of control. Even knowing I was using him for practice didn't bother him. Honestly, why bother getting stronger? As long as I'm here, no one will dare bully you. Playing with his hair, I casually remarked, "It's not like you'll always be by my side." Suddenly, Merle helped me sit up, locking eyes with me. "You are my mate, unless I die or you reject me. I will never betray you." His eyes brimming with sincerity, he pressed a kiss against my waist. A searing heat spread through my abdomen as a serpentine mark materialized on my hip. "Today, I forged this bond with you. Not only will you wield my spiritual power and come and go freely in my domain, but should I betray you, the backlash will reduce me to a powerless juniper. I mean this with all my being. We black tortoises bear carapaces weighing 1,000 pounds, while serpentine venom courses through our veins. The constant pain drives us into prolonged slumber, cutting us off from love and the outside world, yet our divine might knows no equal. And when we choose a mate, our devotion remains absolute." Tears welled in my eyes as I met his solemn gaze. How wonderful! After 2 lifetimes, I finally have someone to hold and cherish. Just as we were baring our hearts, the world outside took a sudden turn. After Cain was injured, he intended to settle scores with Merle, but then Lavinia went into labor. Unlike her first difficult delivery, this time it happened swiftly. Cain was overjoyed, and the entire White Tiger clan waited, with bated breath, until the celestial attendant holding the newborn divine beast suddenly collapsed to her knees. The cub had neither eyes nor a nose, just a shapeless lump of flesh devoid of any features. The crowd gasped in horror, oblivious to Lavinia's labored, weakening breaths nearby. Her constitution couldn't handle tonics, and her reckless squandering of spiritual energy left her desperately weak. She was crying for help, but her habitual arrogance made the attendant immortals grind their teeth in resentment. Not a soul stepped forward to aid her, nor would anyone speak on her behalf. Cain's eyes burned crimson. His sole obsession was perpetuating the White Tiger divine bloodline, which was why he endured the scorn to accept Lavinia. But now, he's left, with nothing but empty hands. The humiliation he endured during this period, combined with the abomination's provocation, sent Cain into a furious rage, transforming into his White Tiger form. He viciously tore off Lavinia's arm with his fangs before sinking his teeth into her shoulder. and ripping. After dragging her to the immortal execution platform, he mercilessly struck her several times before hurling both her and the abomination from the heights, letting them plummet to the mortal realm. Severely weakened, and facing Cain's vengeance, she couldn't withstand the immortal execution platform. Reduced to ashes in an instant, leaving no trace in this world, I only feel pity for that freak of nature. Given Lavinia's condition, she'd never survive the childbirth. Better spare the innocent divine beast from such suffering. Upon hearing this news, I felt an overwhelming sense of relief wash over me. The grudges spanning past and present lives were finally resolved in this moment. My spiritual energy has grown, increasingly abundant to the point where I could even ascend to godhood. Yet I chose not to remain in the celestial realm, returning instead to mankind as a female scholar opening her own academy. Through my insistence, humanity tore up the covenant with the celestial realm, abolishing all restrictions imposed on women. I devoted myself to teaching, hoping to liberate the women of our kind from their fated bondage. After evening classes, Merle would always come to take me home. Fortunately, a day in heaven equals a year on earth. I barely lost any time during my celestial stay. One morning, I woke up to find an egg in my bed. Merle hugged me excitedly. "You're finally willing to bear my beastkin offspring." Turns out the Xuanwu tribe's beastkin are oviparous and can only reproduce when two souls are truly connected. The eggshells began slowly cracking apart. A tiny face peeked out from within, and the moment I recognized it, tears welled up uncontrollably in my eyes. Perfect! All the regrets from this life and the last were finally made whole in this very moment. From now on, I'll strive to grow stronger so those I love will never be hurt again. I'll take full control of my own destiny. Story 2. Reborn in the college entrance exam hall. I desperately ran outside because I knew in just 2 hours the apocalypse would arrive. In my previous life, I fought through hordes of zombies to return home, only for my father to knock me unconscious and sell me to the neighbors in exchange for food. "Evelina, be obedient. Your aunt is still carrying your little brother in her belly." In the end, unable to bear the humiliation, I struggled and jumped off the balcony. At the last moment before consciousness faded, I heard my stepmother touching her belly and complaining to my father. Wasn't it just asking her to sleep with someone for one night? Can't even handle such a small thing. What a worthless burden. When I opened my eyes again, I had returned to the time before the apocalypse. 1. "Hey, classmate, it's not time to hand in a test yet." The invigilator was stunned and quickly came over, but I ignored them, clutching my stomach as I ran out. "I can't hold it in anymore." "Teacher." The classroom immediately erupted into chaos. Opal laughed exaggeratedly. "Her. She's the perennial last-place student in our class. Probably couldn't come up with an answer and was too ashamed to stay." Hearing this, I paused my movements. Once upon a time, Opal's grades couldn't compare to mine, just because I scored several dozen points higher than her on the final exam. She threw a tantrum at home while my dad was away. My stepmother Marigold secretly pinched my flesh. The more I cried, the harder she pinched until one time I couldn't hold it in and told my dad, only to be tearfully framed by Marigold, who claimed I was stealing money from home and she was just disciplining me. Later, she cried again about how hard it is to be a stepmother and even threatened to divorce. My dad got a headache from the noise and simply gave me a slap. Since then, I've become much more silent at home. Marigold kept finding new ways to make me work, yet spent a fortune sending her own daughter to cram school. As a result, the gap between me and Opal grew wider and wider. At this thought, I instinctively glanced back at Opal. Her mocking smile still lingered on her face, with a gleam of triumph in her eyes. "For the last time, let this be your final moment of triumph." I took a deep breath and then rushed out of the examination hall without hesitation. 2. To maintain order in the examination hall, the invigilator had no choice but to let me leave. With a stern face, as soon as I left the classroom, I immediately started running. There were only 2 hours left before the apocalypse would arrive. In my past life, to get food for Marigold and her daughter, my father personally knocked me unconscious and sold me to the neighbor. Downstairs, with my hands tied behind my back. I could only kneel on the ground, begging desperately. But my father turned a deaf ear, his eyes fixed only on the food in the neighbor's hands. Only 2 packs of instant noodles for one night. No way. She's a virgin maiden. It's got to be at least 5 packs. Don't kid me. What's a virgin maiden worth? There's an internet celebrity downstairs. Just offer food, and she'll sleep. With anyone. Take it or leave it. 2 packs of instant noodles at most. The two quickly reached an agreement. Like livestock, I was led away by a rope, hearing my father's utterly cold voice. Evelina, be obedient. Your aunt is still carrying your little brother in her womb. That night, I endured endless humiliation in the darkness, my tears soaking the worn-out floor. But being sold, once it happens the first time, there will inevitably be a second, a third, especially after returning home, only to face endless disdain and verbal abuse. Marigold and her daughter ate the food obtained by trading me, while mocking me. In the end, unable to bear the humiliation, I struggled and jumped off the balcony, looking at my broken body below. My father frowned in disgust. What a waste of raising you all these years. You can't even do such a small thing right. Opal chimed in agreement, while Marigold even spat downstairs, calling me a worthless bird. In the moment my soul floated in the air. I clearly realized I was wrong, and terribly wrong at that, to think I could use my own life to provoke guilt in those scumbags. 3. The moment I stepped out of the examination hall, I let out a long sigh of relief and pulled out a jade pendant from inside my clothes. No one knew that this jade pendant, which looked like it was made of plastic, would actually be a space. Unfortunately, in my previous life, I discovered the space too late. Even with money, I couldn't buy any supplies. I clenched the jade pendant tightly, walking out, while familiarizing myself with how to use the space. The space measures 10 m in length, 8 m in width, and 3 m in height, about the size of a classroom. Besides its storage function, time stands still inside. This means whatever you put in remains exactly the same when taken out. Thinking of this, I quickly called the restaurant owner I usually order from. Sweet and sour pork, crispy fried pork, twice-cooked pork, spicy chicken, fish-flavored shredded pork, braised pork belly, sweet and sour fish fillets, 20 portions of each. My phone's balance quickly ran low. Gritting my teeth, I borrowed another few $1,000s from various online lenders. First, I ordered 30 barrels of drinking water from the water station. As for the address, for safety reasons, I directly wrote down the underground parking garage. While the shop owner was preparing meals, I went into a nearby outdoor supplies store and purchased a wilderness survival kit. Price, $19.98. Although the price is a bit high, it's definitely worth it. It includes not only outdoor equipment like tents, emergency blankets, power banks, flashlights, radios, first aid kits, and solar panels, but also provides 2 large buckets of compressed biscuits. I first went to the restaurant to pick up the pre-ordered boxed meal, then quickened my pace and entered a nearby supermarket. Rice, flour, cooking oil, various condiments, mineral water, self-heating hot pot, 8 treasure porridge, hum sausages, cup noodles, pure fruit juice drinks, paper towels, sanitary pads, toothpaste, and toothbrushes, change of clothes, portable gas stoves. After all this effort, my legs were trembling with exhaustion, but I couldn't afford to relax. My mind completely focused on checking for any missing essential items. With the apocalypse cutting off water and electricity, forget about taking showers. I threw dozens of wet wipes into the shopping cart in one go. While passing by the seasoning aisle, I happened to catch a promotion on hot pot soup bases. I swallowed my saliva and grabbed 20 bags of each flavor. And of course, couldn't leave out the dipping sauces of various tastes. Around noon, my phone rang. It was my dad. Corbin probably came to demand an explanation after finding out I ran away from the exam hall. To avoid wasting time, I directly set my phone to silent mode. Just then, a video notification popped up on my phone. A man's arm appeared to have been bitten by something, with blood trailing all the way. Yet, he seemed completely unaware, lunging straight toward a nearby pedestrian. Biting Gnawing. A piercing shriek rang out. My hand trembled, nearly dropping my phone. Soon, the video was taken down. I tried searching for the term zombie again, but it was flagged as a blocked keyword. Clearly, the zombie virus has already emerged. However, to avoid causing public panic, the authorities are still suppressing information about it. I took a deep breath and raised my hand to hail a taxi. Excuse me, to the nearest farmer's market, please. It wasn't even off work hours yet, so the market was quiet and deserted. With my head lowered, I pulled out a prepared nylon bag from my space and began sweeping through the goods: cabbage, potatoes, onions, corn, sweet potatoes, cucumbers, lettuce, tomatoes. Time was tight, so there was no chance to carefully select. I just asked the vendor to weigh out 20 g of each. Right next to the vegetable stall was a vendor selling free-range eggs. The price was a few yuan more expensive than regular eggs. I asked the boss to help me pack 2 large boxes. The same goes for various common fruits. Among them, we specifically purchased 10 boxes of bananas. The vendors at the farmer's market all looked at me with curious eyes. I pulled my mask up and rushed towards the fresh produce section again. Boss, give me 20 pounds each of your spare ribs, pork belly, tenderloin, as well as beef and lamb. The butcher widened his eyes, looking me up and down. Young lady, do you run a restaurant at home? Buying so much? I nodded vaguely and quickly pulled out my phone to make the payment. The boss couldn't stop grinning when he saw the money hit the account. Immediately getting to work, seeing the cold glint of the knives on the cutting board, an idea struck me. Boss, do you sell these knives? The boss frowned. I quickly held up 2 fingers. I'm willing to pay $200. Time passed minute by minute. By the time we left the farmer's market, I was already drenched in sweat. Without realizing it, I looked up at the sky, dark and gloomy, as if foretelling the impending doom. The phone display showed that there were less than 10 minutes left until the complete outbreak of the previous world's apocalypse. I quickly stopped the taxi to save time. Driver, step on it. I'm in a hurry. The taxi driver grumbled discontentedly. It's rush hour right now. We're already going as fast as possible. At that moment, a screeching brake sound suddenly came from the intersection ahead. A car lost control and crashed into the roadside guardrail, its front severely deformed. What was even more terrifying was that after the person inside climbed out, they suddenly lunged at pedestrians. Without warning, screams quickly erupted from the crowd. Oh my God, what's wrong with this person? Call the police quickly. I watched helplessly as a girl, after being bitten, convulsed, and then crawled back up, from infection to mutation. It took only a few dozen seconds. The taxi driver turned pale, with fear, his hands trembling on the steering wheel. Chaos had already broken out among the vehicles on the road, with sounds of screeching brakes, and people's screams everywhere. Driver, don't stop, just drive through. The driver gave me a terrified glance. You're crazy. I took a deep breath, flicked my wrist, and pulled out the boning knife from thin air, swiftly pressing it against the driver's neck. Drive now. The driver looked on the verge of tears. I'll do as you say. Just keep that thing away from me. With a stomp on the accelerator, the taxi charged straight toward the zombies. With a bang, the zombie was sent flying and crashed heavily onto the ground. But the noise caught the attention of more zombies. The taxi struggled to move forward through the chaotic streets. Finally, after driving for over 10 minutes, it smoothly turned into a quiet alley. For after dropping me off at the residential area entrance, the driver didn't even ask for payment, just stepped on the gas and drove away immediately. Guard Dorian was playing with his phone and seemed confused when he saw me running over. Isn't it college entrance exam time? Why are you back? As he spoke, he opened the gate for me. I lowered my eyes and deliberately sighed. What's the use of getting admitted? My parents said they would only pay for my younger sister's education through college, and that I should start working to earn money right after the college entrance exams. There was a hint of pity in old man Dorian's eyes, but after all, this was someone else's family matter, so he couldn't say much about it. I first went to the underground garage, stored the bottled drinking water in my space, then pressed the elevator button for the 6th floor. Today was also Opal's college entrance exam day, with Corbin and Marigold both waiting outside the exam hall to accompany her. This actually made my next move more convenient. I quickly entered the password in the kitchen. A several-pound king crab is waving its claws menacingly in the sink nearby. There are clean perch, chicken wings, and beef brisket, all prepared to celebrate Opal's successful college entrance exams. But now, all these will be enjoyed by me instead. With a wave of my little hand, the fruits and vegetables in the fridge, the rice and flour in the cupboard, and the half-used cooking oil, salt, soy sauce, and vinegar, store everything in the space. After ransacking the kitchen, I came to Marigold's bedroom. Computers, tablets, used old phones, and finally dug out a safe from under the bed. If I remember correctly, all the valuable things in the house are here. Before leaving, I found a miniature surveillance camera from the Wilderness Survival Kit and hid it inside the shoe cabinet in the living room. After finishing all this, I immediately turned around and ran all the way to the top floor of the adjacent building unit. As the college entrance exams approached, Marigold kept assigning me all sorts of household chores. To avoid disrupting my exam preparation, I had to rent this attic cheaply in the same neighborhood, never imagining it would become my only refuge now. The security door was somewhat old. I tried the key several times before finally managing to get inside. Close the windows, draw the curtains, then barricade the door. With something heavy, the attic instantly grew dimmer. But I didn't stay idle. I quickly filled the pots and pans I brought from home with water, but it's still not enough. After the apocalypse outbreak, water and soil will quickly become contaminated by the zombie virus. To avoid future water shortages, I had to move non-perishable supplies out of my storage space and directly fill it with water. I also took the opportunity to wash all the fruits, vegetables, and even meat in my storage space with clean water. 5. The news online has exploded. Just open any browser, and it's all the same news about the virus spreading. The TV station urgently broadcast a news bulletin. Attention all residents. A new unknown virus has been discovered in our city. Infected individuals show strong aggressive tendencies. All residents are instructed to return home immediately. Secure doors and windows and await further instructions. Repeat again. All residents must return home immediately. Close doors and windows and await further instructions. Upon seeing this message, the neighborhood owners' group chat exploded with reactions. Some suspected an alien invasion, while others claimed it was a virus leak. All sorts of speculations emerged endlessly, with some even posting photos of their stockpiled supplies. I frowned slightly as I looked at those screenshots flaunting seafood feasts and stocked refrigerators. Human nature is unpredictable in apocalyptic times. I'm afraid those people haven't realized how much trouble their current actions will bring in the future. Avelina, did you already know about the zombie virus outbreak? Which is why you turned in your paper early. On the phone, Opal's delicate face was filled with venomous resentment. The scenery outside the window was rapidly changing. Judging by the background, it seemed to be inside a moving vehicle. I raised an eyebrow and deliberately showed the half-finished milk tea beside me. What nonsense are you talking about? I'm just an ordinary person. How could I have possibly the apocalypse would come? No matter what, rebirth is my greatest advantage, and I must never expose it. Ah, you vile wretch. I'll kill you. Opal's face flushed red with rage, her voice shrill and piercing. I lowered my gaze, a flash of mockery swiftly passing through my eyes. Ha! Can't handle it already? But how clearly I remember in my past life when I fell into the zombie horde. She was the one laughing most joyfully, watching her daughter lose control in anger. Marigold could no longer stay seated. Stroking her belly, she spoke with reproach. Evelina, this is where you're wrong. You two are sisters. How could you run off and leave Opal behind? Sisters. Hearing those two words, I immediately burst out laughing. She stole my room, hid my homework, and led her friends to bully me at school. Every single one of these things. Which one wasn't done by her? So now you're saying she's my sister. Marigold's face stiffened, and as she tried to make further excuses, Corbin directly interrupted. We're all family. Why fuss over such trivial matters? Just come back honestly, and I'll pretend this incident never happened. By the way, there are man-eating monsters everywhere outside now. When you come back, remember to buy more supplies so our family won't have to risk going out again. So this was the real purpose of coaxing me to come back. I curved my lips and slowly uttered a few words. I refuse. Let him and the marigold mother-daughter pair rot in their own filth. If they get so much as a grain of rice from me in this lifetime, I'll admit defeat. 6. The zombie virus is spreading faster than anyone imagined. In just half a day, the entire neighborhood has fallen. A large group of people behaving strangely emerged out of nowhere, frantically rushing toward the crowd. Anyone who ran slightly slower on the road would be pounced on and bitten by them. When bystanders tried to pull them away, several more people ended up getting scratched from 1 to 10. From 10 to 100 on the streets, by the flower beds, beneath the residential buildings. Everywhere was filled with slaughter and fleeing crowds in no time. The open space outside the residential area was devoid of living people. A glance online revealed discussions about zombies. Everywhere, I left comments under the most popular videos. The zombie virus is spreading so fast. I wonder if water and soil will be contaminated in the future. As for more details, I didn't say. After all, for those who are attentive, this one hint is already enough. The messages in the owners group had long since reached 99+, with everyone anxiously awaiting rescue. Has anyone called the police? We did, but the police station is surrounded by zombies. 2. They can't get through. Help! Someone! Save me! There's a zombie bashing against my window. In this situation, the Corbin family's burglary seemed insignificant. Call the police. We must call the police. Corbin was so angry his eyes turned red, but when he dialed the police, the line was constantly busy. Finally got through. The police could only tactfully state that due to the zombie virus outbreak, police forces across regions were stretched thin and temporarily unable to handle such cases. Corbin angrily flung his phone to the ground. With great force, with a crack, the phone instantly shattered into pieces. Marigold was startled, covering her stomach as she took a few steps back. Opal was also stomping her feet in anxiety. Dad! Mom! What do we do now? There's no food left in the house. Seeing that neither of them spoke, Opal suddenly thought of something and screamed, That's right! I know! It's Evelina! She must have taken everything. While we were away, Marigold froze for a moment, then gritted her teeth and said, That little wretch. I wondered why she handed in her exam early today. So, this was her plan all along. Corbin lowered his head, lost in thought. Opal snorted and continued to add fuel to the fire. Dad, I don't think she considers us family at all. You can't let her off easy this time. 7. Soon, the phone rang. I pressed the hang-up button. They called again, stubbornly, so I directly turned on the Do Not Disturb mode. After several rounds of this, Corbin sent me a message. You little brat. Don't think hiding will get you off the hook. If you got what it takes, then don't you dare come back. For the rest of your life. Every time I have conflicts with Marigold and her daughter, Corbin would threaten me with this line, simply because he knows in this city I have neither other relatives nor close friends. No matter how much grievance one suffers, in the end they can only compromise. This trick never fails to work for him. But that was before. Now though, I lower my gaze, looking at the surveillance footage on my phone. Corbin sat proudly on the sofa, waiting for me to back down. How dare she? She must bring back 2. No, 3 bags of food, or she can forget about entering this house. Opal sneered coldly. If you ask me, we shouldn't even let her come back. Marigold poked her forehead irritably. Are you stupid? If we don't let her go home, what will we do when the supplies run out? Will you go out to find more? Opal's eyes lit up. The family of 3 exchanged glances and smiled knowingly. I pursed my lips, a hint of sarcasm flashing in my eyes. No wonder Marigold tried every possible way to persuade me to go back in my previous life. This was her scheme all along. 8. The sky gradually darkened, although the attic was high enough. In the silent night, those agonizing wails seemed amplified several times over. Unable to sleep anyway, I simply got out of bed, charging those dozen power banks, while downloading various classic movies and variety shows from the internet. The night passed quickly. By daybreak, all the power banks were fully charged. I yawned and groggily made my way to the bathroom. Unexpectedly, as soon as I turned on the faucet, I caught a faint whiff of an unpleasant odor. It's quite obvious that the water has been contaminated. Many people in the neighborhood have also noticed the water contamination. Why does this water have a strange smell? Could the pipes be damaged? Yesterday, I saw someone online saying water and soil might be contaminated with the zombie virus. Could it actually be true? Damn it! Even the water is undrinkable now. How are we supposed to live like this? Just then, the phone vibrated. It was a notification from the property management in the group chat. Attention all residents. Investigations show varying degrees of contamination in domestic water sources. The water supply system has been shut down, with restoration time pending. This message instantly sent panic in the group chat to its peak. Some people began frantically calling for help, while others were offering high prices to purchase various supplies. Messages kept popping up one after another. I silently turned off my phone, took out toast and juice from my storage space, and had a simple breakfast. While eating, a sudden intense argument broke out outside. I tiptoed to the window and peered through the curtain gap at the opposite side. It was a young couple living in Unit 1203, Building B. The man pointed at the nearly empty water dispenser, his lips trembling with anger. With just this little water left, you still insist on washing the baby's bottom, sterilizing bottles, and damn it, 3 times. Do you think this is still before the apocalypse, where you could buy water anywhere? The baby in her arms started wailing in fright, and the woman broke down. 2. That's our child. If we don't sterilize the bottle, they'll get diarrhea. If we don't wash his bottom with clean water, they'll develop a rash. What do you suggest we do? The man suddenly turned around and slammed his fist against the wall. What do we do? All I know is there are zombies everywhere outside. Without water, our whole family will die of thirst. The argument came to an abrupt halt. The woman collapsed to the ground, the cries of the child in her arms growing faint. The man knelt down trembling, reaching out to hold the child, only to be shoved away by the woman. This was only the first day of the apocalypse, yet some had already been driven to despair. I averted my gaze, lost in thought when my phone vibrated again. It was Marigold 9. Evelina, it's far too dangerous out there. Your father and I are both very worried about you. Why don't you just come back? At least our family can look out for each other when we're together. Look out for each other. Their so-called care means pushing me out to exchange for supplies when resources run out. I curled my lips, a hint of sarcasm flashing across them. It's impressive she could even utter such hypocritical words. I knew perfectly well that if they hadn't been trapped in a desperate situation, without food or water, they'd never have remembered this tool of a person. I changed my posture, showing them the supplies behind me, while adding a caption. Don't worry, I'm doing great out here. How could I not be? That's a whole wall of supplies. Marigold's eyes turned red with excitement as she quickly called Corbin over and whispered, Corbin, look quickly. That wretched girl really went behind our backs to live the good life by herself. Soon, Opal's sarcastic voice rang out. Don't you see, Mom? And Dad are starving. How can you swallow all this food? Sensing the situation was off, Marigold quickly tugged at her daughter's sleeve. Evelina, dear, don't mind it. Opal was just joking. But our house was indeed robbed. Hurry, and bring back some food. The more the better. I directly cut off their fantasy. Did I ever say I was going back? Corbin was taken aback. Where else can you go if not home? Home. That's yours, not mine. At this point, I couldn't be bothered to keep up pretenses with them anymore. Corbin, Marigold, search your conscience and ask yourselves, are you truly worried about my safety, or are you coveting the supplies in my possession? Evelina, Corbin seemed thoroughly enraged. Don't push your luck. If you don't come back now, don't even think about setting foot in this house ever again. Great. I couldn't ask for more. I let out a cold laugh and hung up the phone before they could react. 10. The grudges from my past life are now things of the past, rather than wasting time on those scumbags. I'd rather seize every moment to gather more advantages for myself in the coming apocalypse. The residential water supply has been cut off, but the natural gas is still available. I've been busy in the kitchen all day, constantly wielding the spatula, steamed rice, seafood congee, century egg, and lean pork congee, scrambled eggs, with tomatoes, eggplant, with garlic sauce, shredded pork, with green peppers, braised beef, braised spare ribs. They're all simple home-style dishes, with each pot serving generous portions. While it's still steaming hot from the pot, directly store it in the space. Now that the apocalypse has just begun, most people haven't fallen into desperate situations yet. We must take this time to cook the meals. Try to minimize cooking in the future to avoid attracting unwanted attention. In the afternoon, continue the battle with various flour-based foods, steamed buns, rolls, stuffed pies, and Shu might take turns making appearances. The last basket of soup dumplings came out of the steamer. Well past midnight, I lay in bed, too exhausted to even move a finger. That sleep was exceptionally sweet. At daybreak, the of zombies echoed outside again. I sighed and resignedly got out of bed, continuing yesterday's work 11. In the following days, the number of zombies kept increasing. Many buildings and facilities were destroyed, even though the government urgently dispatched people for repairs. Often, as soon as one place was fixed, problems would emerge elsewhere. Even more terrifying, the power went out. People initially held on to the hope that the apocalypse would soon pass. But as the catastrophe persisted, more and more people had to risk venturing out to scavenge for supplies in order to survive. Yesterday afternoon, the young couple living across the way went out under cover of darkness to search for supplies, and never returned. I sighed, though it weighed on my conscience. I knew I was just an ordinary person powerless to change anything. Corbin called me several more times. Annoyed, I directly blocked their numbers. After all, constantly watching their act was quite exhausting. Just like in the previous life, to fill his stomach, Corbin once again resorted to selling his daughter. Only in the previous life, it was me who got sold, but in this life it became Opal. Opal, who was spoiled and pampered since childhood, naturally couldn't accept this decision. Why should it be me? That Evelina has hoarded so many supplies. Go after her instead. Opal screamed and stepped back. I stared at the phone screen, watching her smash the living room vase violently onto the floor. Porcelain shards flew everywhere. Corbin's palm landed heavily on her face. How dare you rebel? After eating our food and drinking our resources, it's your duty to make sacrifices for this family when it counts. Opal's face swelled up rapidly. Seeing this, Marigold instinctively shielded Opal behind her. Honey, spare Opal. She just turned 18. Spare her. Corbin scoffed disdainfully. If we spare her, should our whole family starve to death? Marigold's hands fell limply. Both parties quickly reached an agreement. Marigold was already weak from pregnancy, and under the sudden shock, she suffered a miscarriage. Corbin, finding it inauspicious, dragged her from the blood-stained sofa all the way to the balcony. Can't even bear a son, and still wasting food. You'd be better off dead. As the last piece of bread disappeared into Corbin's mouth, the final glimmer of light in Marigold's eyes faded away. The next day, with cold indifference, Corbin tossed Marigold's corpse off the balcony, leaving it to be devoured by zombies. Watching this scene unfold on the surveillance feed, I couldn't help but shudder. In truth, Corbin is the most cold-hearted person in this household. Even someone as hypocritical and harsh as Marigold still holds a mother's love for her daughter. Yet, in Corbin's eyes, even his own daughter, whom he doted on since childhood, is nothing more than a commodity to be traded at will. 12. I never saw Opal again, nor did I know what became of her. But for me, it doesn't matter anymore. The neighborhood owners group chat is noisy and quarrelsome every day. At first, they cursed the apocalypse for leaving no way to survive. Then they cursed the property management for inaction. And now, even neighbors who don't lend them supplies get cursed. The verbal battles in the group keep escalating. Someone threatened to resort to robbery if they couldn't borrow supplies. even publishing a list titled Stockpiling Big Shots in the group chat. That very night, several households were robbed. Corbin carried the stolen supplies back home. Being alone, he specifically targeted elderly people and single women, but he wasn't feeling great either. The old lady in apartment 302 wielded her cane with terrifying vigor. Having run too slowly, he got whacked several times. Scenes like this played out almost daily in the neighborhood. I grew increasingly cautious, keeping daytime noise to a minimum, and even avoiding turning on lights at night. Occasional screams could be heard from the residential area. I couldn't hear it clearly, but the zombies downstairs seemed summoned, surging toward one direction in a dark mass before slowly dispersing. Several more days passed like this. The number of zombies in the residential area doubled. Some came from outside, but more were transformed from the residents of the community. If at first it was just a shortage of supplies, but as the apocalypse progressed, the weather became increasingly bizarre. Sometimes daytime temperatures would soar above 40 degrees, only to plummet below zero at night. In such harsh conditions, even with the government's determined rescue efforts, the number of zombies continues to surge every day. 13. Another week passed, and people began conducting door-to-door sweeps. Corbin got into a conflict with them and was slashed in the shoulder by their knife. The wound wasn't originally very deep, but before sweeping the building, that person deliberately smeared zombie blood on the blade, and Corbin got infected just like that. I watched the scene quietly. I thought seeing his downfall would bring great satisfaction, but clearly that wasn't the case. As night fell, over a dozen more corpses gradually appeared downstairs in the residential area. With sharp eyes, I noticed those corpses were somewhat mutilated, with fleshy parts seemingly carved away. Realizing a certain possibility, I was instantly overcome with horror. They dared not kill zombies, yet wielded their butcher knives mercilessly against their own kind. If this continues, it likely won't be long before those demons discover the attic's existence. That night, after erasing all traces of life from the attic, I silently returned to room 602, the place where I once lived. I was all alone, with no need to confront those people head-on. Besides, the attic was small and cramped. Those people would probably just do a quick inspection and leave, and I just need to wait for them to finish the inspection before going back. 14. Half a month passed in the blink of an eye. During that time, those demons also left the neighborhood. After all, staying would mean supplies would eventually run out one day. So, it's better to venture out and find a way to survive. When I realized they were leaving, I could hardly wait to buy firecrackers to celebrate. They're finally gone. During this time, I couldn't sleep at night, and even in my dreams I was outwitting those people. Now, I can finally breathe a sigh of relief. To celebrate, I took out the king crab I'd been treasuring in my space for a long time, and luxuriously prepared it 3 different ways. The spicy stir-fried crab legs were crispy outside and tender inside, while the crab roe steamed egg melted in the mouth. The remaining crab body was thrown into a clay pot and simmered into a thick seafood congee. Finally, it was paired with a refreshing and palate-cleansing glass of lemon tea. I sat by the window, enjoying delicious food, while peering through the gaps at the zombies wandering below. At this moment, the food was not just a treat for the taste buds, but also a comfort for the half-year of constant fear. However, I didn't dare to indulge too much. After all, those demons may have left, but there's no guarantee other survivors aren't hiding in the neighborhood. Caution should still be the top priority. Thus, after a lavish seafood feast, I returned to my previous lifestyle. 15. Autumn passed, and winter came. In the 5th month since the apocalypse began, temperatures plummeted, leaving a thick layer of snow on the ground. I didn't dare to collect it. First, I'm afraid the snow might contain the zombie virus. Second, I'm worried that collecting snow might expose the existence of the attic. However, one early morning, I still noticed a patch of snow missing downstairs. Clearly, there are other survivors hiding in the neighborhood. The weather is getting colder. The nighttime low temperature even reached -50 degrees the square. Downstairs was completely buried in heavy snow. The zombies froze stiff, not only slowing their movement, but also making their bodies much more brittle. Sometimes a single kick is enough to shatter their bones. Of course, I've only heard about this brutal method and haven't tried it myself. 16. The night before New Year's Eve, drones flew by with a roaring sound, dropping several red packages in the residential area. It looks very festive until one time I couldn't hold back and told my dad, only to be tearfully accused by Marigold, saying she was disciplining me because I was misbehaving and stealing money from home. Later, I heard on the radio that it was actually dumplings, and it was a mix of both pork and beef. 17. 1 year after the apocalypse arrived, with the arrival of summer, the zombies outside became fewer and fewer. Sometimes you wouldn't see one for several days in a row. Under the high temperatures, zombie bodies decayed extremely easily. Sometimes chunks of rotting flesh would just fall off as they walked. When the flesh on their bodies had nearly all fallen off, they would collapse with a splat, completely motionless. 18. In October of the same year, the nation successfully developed an antidote for the first time and began widespread spraying, not even sparing uninhabited areas. After all, this virus affected not only humans, but also water and soil. Another year passed, and the toxicity in the soil and water sources completely degraded, allowing the nation to resume production. Shortly after, power and internet services began to be restored, and many people wept with joy online. On the day the internet was restored, I stared silently at the flood of loan repayment reminders appearing one after another. But don't panic. After rummaging through the space for a long time, I finally found the safe that had been forgotten in the corner. Inside, along with 100,000 in cash, were several 100-gram gold bars, more than enough to cover the loan.